Welcome back to another playthrough of The Ugly Gryphon Inn by Button Shy Games. My name is Marcus and this is Board Games and Chill. Today I'm going to be playing The Ugly Gryphon Inn alongside the Innployees Expansion. Without further ado, let's shuffle up and get started. Drawing from the deck, let's see what patrons we get. We have the Fasting Monk, Drunken Dwarf, Charitable Giant, Sensitive Hunter. Looking at our starting quirks, we have 2 noise quirks, 1 smell quirk and 1 fighting quirk. All of them have beer preferences, so it could be very easy to play the Fasting Monk as well as the Sensitive Hunter, because the Sensitive Hunter requires more beer than food. So let's play the Fasting Monk first, because he only needs 1 person, because he will be on the first floor. He only needs 1 person above him to meet his Urk requirement. So let's start there, and then we can just draw the next card from here. The Goblin Triplet, which means we have 3 noise quirks. But luckily the Fasting Monk is not irked by noise, so we are fairly safe. In which case I think we should play the Sensitive Hunter. I think we can try and ignore the Charitable Giant, or potentially try to get rid of it somewhere, unless we can stick in the Goblin Triplet after the Sensitive Hunter. As long as we make sure there is more beer than food, we should be safe. So the Sensitive Hunter seems like the best option. He also doesn't have He isn't irked by noise, so if you do get someone with a noise quirk next round, we still should be safe. So in that case, we can just draw a new card into the bar. We don't need to resolve any quirks this round. If we play the Goblin Triplet, we must be careful because the Warbear and the Drunken Dwarf have fighting quirks. We can't play the Warbear because there is no food in the inn. If we want to have a chance at playing the Charitable Giant, we have to play the Goblin Triplet. The Drunken Dwarf will leave fairly quickly considering the amount of beer we have. Having said that, he can potentially be useful later on to get through the deck a little bit quicker. We can't use any employees yet until we have 3 patrons in the inn, so I think we might have to take the risk and use the Goblin Triplet. Okay, Goblin Triplet is safe. We still have 2 beers more than and only 1 food, so Sensitive Hunter is okay, and Fasting Monk is also okay, so we can just draw the next card and hope that it's not a fighting quirk. Okay, instead we have 3 smell quirks, which means the Fasting Monk just leaves. At least we don't have that restriction anymore, I suppose. But it means we do have 2 Goblin Triplets already. We can now play the Warbear because there is food in the inn. In Charitable Giant, we have a lot more flexibility now. I think I might play the Goblin Triplet because it reduces the noise irk, and there's no one here who has any smell quirks, and there's no one here with any noise quirks, so he should be safe for the time being. We do have the problem of both of these people having fighting irks, or irked by fighting, so it might be worth trying to get rid of the Drunken Dwarf or the Warbear. I think I might get rid of the Warbear, but there's always a risk that the 3rd Goblin Triplet will come and just destroy everyone. I will go with the Warbear because we now have food in the inn, so I think we are pretty safe there. No one is irked by smell, so it doesn't matter too much that we have already 3 smell quirks at the bar. We've also added another beer, we are less at risk from irking the Sensitive Hunter, which is good. In that case, we can just draw a new card. Indecisive Doppelganger. We don't have any irks to resolve. I think it could be best to bulk out this beer preference a little bit more just to be on the safe side with the sensitive hunter. So I might go for the drunken dwarf, although he will have to disappear in not so many turns, so it might actually be a better idea to go with the charitable giant. The problem is we still are at risk from the fighting quirks, and if we use the indecisive doppelganger, there's always a risk that he'll transform into someone with a smell which will be bad because we already have 3 smell quirks at the bar. I think we should play the charitable giant first. And then hopefully we won't get someone with a fighting quirk next round. So we are safe with the charitable giant. We have food in the inn. There is 1 goblin here, and there is more beer than food in the inn, so we can just draw the next card. Fantastic. 3 fighting quirks, which means that the goblin leaves, and the sensitive hunter leaves and irks anyone with smells. Luckily these 2 don't have smells. It does mean we already have 2 people who have left. Since we already have 2 beer preferences, we do need someone with food to go next because we have the charitable giant. We are lucky that we went top down because there is currently no food in the inn, so we need to have food there in order to not irk the warbear. So let's go ahead and, well, you can either do the bloody barbarian, indecisive doppelganger might be okay. Now the problem is if when he does transform, he might disrupt the charitable giant. And I think we are fairly safe to just use the goblin triplet because we don't have any noise. No one with noise quirks and no one with fighting irks. So we'll just start off with that. We are safe over here because we now have food in the inn, so the warbear is not irked. We draw another card. We still have fighting quirks here, but no fighting irks. So we can probably just go ahead and play the stressed satire, just to add that extra food for the warbear. Let's do that. And since there is beer in the inn, we meet all the requirements, we can just draw the next card. Time mage. We do need to play someone with beer preference, which will either have to be the time mage or the drunken dwarf, which might be okay. I don't think I want to look for an employee just yet because we might be in the position where we have to insert someone in somewhere, which actually might not be too bad. We can get rid of one of the employees. Let's try that since we do have 4 in the end. We have the front desk cleric. Let's add the quirks first, and luckily it was a fighting quirk, and because we have no fighting irks, we are okay still. And so before adding a patron to the inn this turn, we can choose someone in the inn and place them at the bottom of the deck. So it might be worth doing the same with the charitable giant again, just so we get a bit more freedom, which I think is a good idea. So I'll chuck the charitable giant at the bottom of the deck. That way we can play any beer or food preference we like, and we will play the bloody barbarian. Because there is beer at the bar, and there is also beer at the inn. So we are safe, in which case we can just go ahead and discard the front desk cleric and draw the next card. Okay, we have a lot of fighting quirks here, but luckily no one's irked by fighting, which is quite beneficial, really. In which case it might be worth just playing you could play as anyone really. There's always a risk using the doppelganger that something will happen, especially if it brings in someone who is irked by fighting. So before we play the doppelganger, it's probably worth getting rid of the number of fighting quirks here, in which case I think it would be worth playing the goblin triplet to greatly reduce that. Okay, and since we only have 2 goblin triplets, the last one is actually in the discard pile already, and then we still have beer in the bar, we have beer in the inn, and once again goblin triplets, 2 of them, and there is plenty of food in the inn, so we can just go ahead and draw the next card. Clumsy Wizard. Now we have no quirks to resolve, which means we're in fairly safe territory, and all he does is change the order of the cards, the next 3 cards, which is fine because we are no longer restricted by card order. So let's just do that. So since the wizard is at the top of the deck, we will shuffle these 3. Place them back. So we still have beer in the inn, only 2 goblins. There is beer at the bar, only 2 goblins, and there is food in the inn. So we can just go ahead and draw the next card. We have the Rusty Ranger. We have 3 fighting quirks, but luckily still we have made sure to have no one irked by fighting in the inn. So we're still pretty safe. If we can keep this up, that'll be a grand thing. It might be worth trying to go through some more of these employees as we get closer towards the end. In which case, let's draw an employee and see what we get, since I don't think anything can affect us, depending on their quirk. So, we have the Scullery Maid. If we add the quirk, we still don't get anything there. The Scullery Maid. Before adding a patron to the inn this turn, choose 3 adjacent patrons in the inn, completely rearrange them, none may remain where they started. This works out pretty fine because no one is required to be in a particular order, which is great. So we can probably just go ahead and just reverse it so that just move all of these up 1 so that they're all in different positions. But other than that, not much has changed. In which case we can now add someone to the inn, which will be the Time Mage. We can't really, it would be risky to use the Rusty Ranger because of the number of beer preferences in the bar, and shooting the goblin triplet will lose 2 goblin triplets. So it might be best just to use the Time Mage because we do have an uneven amount already. So that should be fairly safe. And it's also not irked by fighting, which is also makes it even safer. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's discard the Scullery Maid, and we are completely safe. There's beer in the inn. We have 4 food versus 3 beer. We only have 2 goblin triplets. Wizard is not at the top. There is beer at the bar, plenty of it, and there is food in the inn. So we can just go ahead and draw the next card. The Sleepy Summoner. So once again we just have fighting quirks, but we are safe. The Sleepy Summoner might be good to use because so far no one here has a noise quirk, not including the Time Mage. The Sleepy Summoner also doesn't get irked by fighting. So we can just go ahead and play the Sleepy Summoner. We have 4 cards remaining, so we do need to use one of them, and I think the last one will be the Knight, which means we'll have to slot him in somewhere. And if we do use that to finish with the employees, we need to be able to slot the Sleepy Summoner between 2 people without any noise irks and without noise quirks, which could go very well over here in between these 2. And because he's food, we won't get irked by the Time Mage. So I think let's do that. Let's draw the next employee. We have the Night Manager. During the inn phase this turn, and once again the Night Manager has a fighting quirk, but we are not affected. So during the inn phase this turn, add the patron to any floor except the top or bottom floors. In which case we can stick the Sleepy Summoner, who requires someone without a noise quirk below or above. We can stick them in between these 2 who have smell and fighting quirks only. is this all 3 employees down. Let's just move these into the position where the deck was and draw the next card, because we meet all of the requirements still. The Teetotal Nun. We currently can't play the Teetotal Nun because the Time Mage has a beer there. It could be safe to use the Rusty Ranger, because all the Rusty Ranger will do would be to send the stressed satire back into the bar, but then you run the risk of dealing with the Goblin Triplet if it gets irked next time. Teetotal Nun is also irked by fighting, so we really don't want to play her. Indecisive Doppelganger still might be a risk that they might transform into someone with a fighting irk. So I think we will have to... We've got 1, 2, 3 beers. The Drunken Dwarf will immediately leave and discard 1 card, which won't be too bad because we have only lost 3 patrons currently. So losing 1 more to remove 1 card might not be a bad idea. But I think what I'll do, since we have way more food than beer, is play the Rusty Ranger, because we just have 1 person with beer over here. So I think we are safe. Okay, so you have the Rusty Ranger there. Let's check the irks. If there are 3 more beer in the bar, there's only 1. There is not an equal number of food and beer. We have 5 food to 4 beer. We only have 2, there is plenty of beer in the inn. Only 2 goblins. Wizard is not at the top. There is beer at the bar, and there is no noise quirks top and bottom, and there is 2 goblins, and there is plenty of food in the inn, so we are doing well. So we can just draw the next card. The Lazy Sorcerer. We don't particularly want to play them because it is way more than the 5th floor, and swapping them with the one on the bottom won't be the worst thing, but the problem is the Lazy Sorcerer will immediately leave. Since we have no risk of getting 3 matching quirks because all 3 goblins have been played, we could be safe in just using the Drunken Dwarf to lose the extra card from the patron deck, which means this could be the final round, and that would make everything safe because we still have 1 beer over here to match the Bloody Barbarian's irk. So let us do that. So to take the Drunken Dwarf and play him here. So if there are 4 more beer in the inn, which there is, we have 5. The dwarf leaves drunkenly. He goes out the window instead of the door and lands on a patron waiting outside. Remove the top card of the deck from the game. So we discard the Drunken Dwarf and we discard the top card from the game. So we have 1 patron in the patron deck left. Going down, if there are 3 or more beer in the bar, which we have 1, which is fine. If there's an equal amount of food and beer in the bar, we have 4 beer, 5 food. If there is no beer in the inn, which we have, there are only 2 goblins here. Wizard is not at the top. There is beer at the bar. There is no noise between these 2 goblins, and there is food at the inn. So we can just draw the final card here, and there shouldn't be any chance of getting a 3 matching quirks, which there isn't. So since we have checked the quirks, we have no more people in the patron deck, we can say that the game ends. In which case we need to make sure that we meet all the win requirements, which is having hired all 3 employees, which we have done. These 3 are all discarded, and we need at least 7 patrons in the inn, in which case we have made a whopping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 patrons in the inn, which other than my past few losses, this has been quite a good game, and I am very pleased with the result. In that case, that's it for this playthrough, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to watch any of my previous playthroughs, please check out the following video. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I shall see you in the next one.